How crazy could a birthday party be that it ends with a Rolls-Royce in the pool, or a concert that involves biting the head off a live bat? Well, you're about to find out. Join us as we explore the wildest moments of rock stars who hosted the craziest parties. Sammy Hagar. If you lived through the rock scene of the 80s, you couldn't have missed Sammy Hagar. His crazy and energetic performances earned him the nickname Red Rocker. This guy lived the classic rock star life full of wild and crazy moments. In the 1980s, Hagar joined Van Halen, an American band that quickly became famous for hosting the craziest parties. One famous story involves the sex tents set up behind the stage during Van Halen tours. These tents were used by the band and fans for private, wild activities. According to Sammy Hagar, these tents were a key part of their tours when Van Halen was at their peak. But the craziness didn't stop at that. Backstage at Van Halen concerts was a non-stop party fueled by alcohol and drugs. Hagar was usually in the middle of the chaos, embodying the true spirit of rock and roll. In one famous incident during a concert in Detroit, Hagar, feeling particularly excited, decided to race motorcycles with the crew backstage. Despite the tight spaces, he didn't hold back and ended up crashing into a stack of equipment, making everyone laugh and cheer. After his time with Van Halen, Hagar found success as a solo artist and businessman. He created Cabo Wabo Tequila, a project inspired by his trips to Cabo San Lucas. He often invited friends and fans to his cantina in Cabo, where legendary parties with lots of tequila and impromptu jam sessions would last until sunrise. These gatherings became a significant part of his life after Van Halen. But that's not all. In his autobiography, Hagar shares more wild stories about himself that we might have missed. One such tale from the early 80s involves an after-party on their tour bus. They parked in a secluded spot, played loud music, and invited fans on board. As the night progressed, the party grew wilder with drinking, dancing, and general chaos. At one point, Hagar climbed onto the roof of the bus, leading the crowd in a loud sing-along until the police arrived. But guess what? He charmed the officers, turning a potential shutdown into a funny story. Tommy Lee. Remember Tommy Lee from the 90s? He was the drummer for the rock band Motley Crue, and his life is filled with wild rock star stories you'd love to hear. Let's begin with his sex tape with Pamela Anderson. In the mid-90s, a private video of Tommy Lee and Pamela Anderson was stolen and leaked, becoming one of the first viral sex tapes. This scandal made Lee and Anderson big news, and Lee often said this incident showed how unpredictable his life could be. The aftermath was chaotic, with lawsuits, media frenzy, and personal issues, but it also added to Lee's bad boy image. His on-stage performances were just as wild. He was known for his crazy drumming stunts, like playing a solo while suspended upside down. This trick, first done during the Girls, Girls, Girls tour, became a fan favorite. Lee's drum kit would spin 360 degrees while he played, with pyrotechnics adding to the spectacle. This became one of the most iconic images of Motley Crue's live shows. But it doesn't end there. Lee and his bandmates also hosted crazy parties abroad. After a concert in Tokyo, they hit up an underground club where Lee, always up for a challenge, engaged in a drinking contest with the locals. The night got wild, with Lee drinking exotic cocktails and leading fans through Tokyo, singing Motley Crue songs, and almost getting arrested. The night ended with Lee crashing into his hotel room just as the sun was rising. Another crazy event from Lee's time with Motley Crue happened during a tour in New York. Lee threw a party in his hotel suite that got out of control. At one point, he moved a grand piano from the lobby to his suite and played while guests partied around him. As you'd expect, the night ended with the suite in ruins, a huge bill for the band, and another legendary story in rock history: Ozzy Osbourne. There is perhaps no other rock star who personifies his nickname as Ozzy Osbourne does. He was famously called the Prince of Darkness. Osbourne was known for some of the most outrageous tales in rock history. One of the most infamous happened in 1982 during a concert in Iowa. A fan threw a live bat on stage, and Ozzy, thinking it was a toy, bit off its head. Abruptly ending the concert, he was taken to the hospital for rabies shots, and this shocking act became one of the craziest moments in rock history. We could say biting off a bat's head was a mistake. How about snorting a line of ants? During the 1984 Bark at the Moon tour with Motley Crue, Ozzy and the band were trying to outdo each other. Ozzy did something crazy when he spotted ants on the ground and snorted them, leaving everyone stunned. But Ozzy's antics weren't just on stage. In 1982, while visiting Texas, he got drunk and was caught urinating on the Alamo's cenotaph. Surprisingly, he was dressed in his wife's clothes. Quite funny, his wife had hidden his clothes to stop him from going out, so he wore hers. Of course, he didn't go scot-free for urinating on a public monument, so he was arrested and given a 10-year ban from the city. His public appearances were just as chaotic. In 1981, during a meeting with CBS Records executives, Ozzy planned to release doves into the air to celebrate his new contract. Instead, overcome with excitement and likely a few drinks, he bit the head off one of the doves, horrifying the executives. There have been mixed reactions concerning him biting off the head of animals. Some say it was intentional, while others say he was intoxicated. But what do you think? Share your opinions in the comment section below. How could we not mention Slash, the iconic Guns N' Roses guitarist? He was at the center of many wild rock and roll stories. Known for his top hat, curly hair, and guitar skills, Slash's offstage life was just as legendary. One crazy story involves his pet mountain lion. In the late 1980s, Slash kept a mountain lion as a pet in his Los Angeles home. The lion once escaped and roamed the neighborhood, causing panic. However, he managed to capture it, but the story soon spread like wildfire. You could expect he'd do some crazy things with his bandmates too. One night in Chicago, Slash and his bandmates threw a party that quickly got out of control. They trashed the suite, destroyed furniture, and threw TVs out of windows. Slash even rode a motorcycle through the hallways, scaring the hotel staff. He got the entire music team banned from the hotel, and the story became legendary. But that's not all. Substance abuse was a big part of Slash's life, leading to several near-death experiences. During one of his tours in the early 1990s, Slash overdosed and was found unconscious in his hotel room. The paramedics revived him, but his addiction struggles persisted. On another occasion, while under the influence of drugs one night, Slash hallucinated creatures attacking him. In a panic, he smashed a hotel window and climbed onto the balcony. This could have ended his life, but the hotel security quickly came to his rescue and escorted him back inside. Keith Moon. Who could forget the legendary drummer of The Who band? Keith Moon was famous for his wild antics on and off the stage. His explosive drumming style matched his equally explosive behavior. One of his most notorious pranks was blowing up toilets. Moon loved pyrotechnics and often set off cherry bombs in hotel bathrooms. One night, after some heavy drinking in a hotel in Michigan, Moon flushed several cherry bombs down the toilet, causing a massive explosion that destroyed the bathroom. The damage was so extensive that the band was banned from the hotel chain, and Moon had to pay for the repairs. But it doesn't stop there. Moon's antics also included driving cars into unusual places. One famous story involves him driving a Rolls-Royce into a swimming pool during his 21st birthday party at a Holiday Inn in Flint, Michigan, following a wild night of partying. His action caused significant damage and resulted in a ban from all Holiday Inn properties. Let's talk about his life on stage. Moon's influence on The Who's sound and live performances was immense. His drumming was known for its energy and complex rhythms. A particularly memorable performance was at Woodstock in 1969, where Moon's electrifying drumming and wild stage presence captivated the massive audience. At one point, he collapsed from exhaustion and substance use. However, after being revived with a shot of adrenaline, he returned to the stage and finished the show. But there's more. A legendary story from Moon's life involves his wild behavior at a press conference in Copenhagen in 1972. During the press conference, Moon set off a smoke bomb, filling the room with smoke and causing panic among the journalists and hotel staff. Unmoved by the chaos, he simply laughed and continued answering questions as if nothing had happened. Despite his untimely death at 32 from an overdose, Moon's legacy lives on through his music and the countless stories of his outrageous behavior. Steven Tyler. Steven Tyler was part of the Toxic Twins, a nickname they got because of their heavy partying and drug use. One famous story is from their 1977 tour in Philadelphia called the Draw the Line Tour. The tour was full of extreme drug use and wild actions, with Tyler and his toxic twin, Perry, ending up with a $100,000 hotel bill. The bill included costs for room service, damages to their rooms, and other luxuries. What a crazy way to end a tour. Speaking of his antics on stage, well, you could expect Tyler to be just as wild. He is known for his high-energy performances and flashy outfits. One unforgettable moment occurred during Aerosmith's show at the Texas Jam in 1978. Tyler, dressed in a sparkling jumpsuit and scarves, climbed the stage framework and decided to perform while hanging from it. At one point, he lost balance and almost fell, but fortunately, he received support. His performance that day was thrilling, with screams echoing throughout the theater. One of Tyler's memorable stage stories is about a fan at a concert in the late 1970s. While performing, he saw a young woman in the front row who had climbed onto the stage, but instead of having her removed, Tyler invited her to join him. She danced with him for the rest of the song, creating a magical rock and roll moment. However, Tyler struggled with drug addiction for many years, leading to numerous wild stories and close calls. In the early 1980s, he overdosed on heroin and was found unconscious in his hotel room. Paramedics had to revive him, which served as a wake-up call at the time. Despite realizing the danger, Tyler continued to battle addiction for years, which took a toll on his health and relationships. relationships. However, after undergoing several rounds of rehab, he eventually achieved sobriety. Jimmy Page. If Jimmy Page's songs weren't on your playlist in the 70s and 80s, you definitely missed out. Known for his amazing musical talent and wild lifestyle, he found the rock band Led Zeppelin. One of the most notorious stories about Page is the Mud Shark incident. In 1969, at the Edgewater Inn in Seattle, Page and his Led Zeppelin bandmates, along with the band Vanilla Fudge, had a wild party. During the party, a fan was allegedly tied to a bed and assaulted with pieces of a mud shark caught from the bay. While the details of this story have been debated, it remains a famous example of Led Zeppelin's outrageous behavior. Page's interest in the occult added to his mysterious image. He was a follower of Aleister Crowley, a British occultist. He even bought Crowley's old home, Boleskine House, in Scotland. This interest influenced his music and stage presence, making him even more intriguing. Boleskine House was known for occult activities and rumors of ghostly sightings. This connection was clear during one of Led Zeppelin's concerts in 1973, where Page performed a guitar solo that ended with a violin bow, accompanied by mysterious lighting. Another testament to Page's extravagant lifestyle was the band's private jet called the Starship. The aircraft featured a bar, a living room, and many bedrooms, providing the band with luxurious travel accommodations. The jet became infamous for hosting wild parties in the sky. In a notable event, they flew across America with fans on board, resulting in days of wild partying at 30,000 feet. These airborne parties were legendary, characterized by stories of drug use, naked passengers, and non-stop music. But that's not all. Page's behavior in hotels was also infamous. One popular story is about the destruction of a suite at the Continental Hyatt House in Los Angeles. The suite was called the Riot House because of its popularity with rock bands. One night, Page and drummer John Bonham rode motorcycles through the hallways, causing a lot of damage. The hotel staff and guests were shocked at this act, but for Led Zeppelin, it was just another night. Another legendary story from Page's life involves a fire at his home in Sussex, England. His mansion caught fire in the late 1970s, but instead of evacuating, he rushed back inside to save his prized guitar collection. "My guitars are my most valued possessions," he said. Speaking of his personal life, well, Page's personal life was just as wild as his professional one. His relationship with 14-year-old Laurie Maddox became a scandalous part of rock history. David Bowie introduced Maddox, a popular fan, to Page. She traveled with the band and was part of their inner circle. Despite the controversy surrounding Page's affair with a minor, he and Maddox remained together for several years. Axl Rose. Who could forget Axl Rose's memorable antics in the 90s? Rose is known for his wild personality and lifestyle. His unpredictable behavior often led to famous incidents like the St. Louis riot in 1991. During a concert at the Riverport Amphitheater, Rose saw a fan taking photos near the stage. Angry, he jumped into the crowd to confront the fan, causing a big fight. After security got involved, Rose ended the concert by smashing his microphone on the stage and walking off. This led to a riot among the fans, causing lots of damage to the venue and injuries to many people. But that's not all. His personal life has also been full of ups and downs, with many high-profile relationships and conflicts. One of the most notable was his relationship with supermodel Stephanie Seymour, who starred in the music videos for Don't Cry and November Rain. Despite their strong connection, the relationship ended badly, often making headlines due to public fights and dramatic breakups. He was a member of Guns N' Roses, and their concerts were notorious for their unpredictability. Shows often started late or ended abruptly, largely due to Rose's erratic behavior. A notable incident occurred during the band's 1992 tour with Metallica. In a Montreal show, Metallica's performance was cut short when lead singer James Hetfield was injured by pyrotechnics. Already frustrated, the crowd became more restless as Guns N' Roses delayed their set. When Rose finally appeared, he sang only a few songs before complaining about his voice and abruptly ending the concert. This sparked a riot, with fans destroying the venue and causing chaos in the city. But here's where things get interesting. In the mid-1990s, Rose had a significant clash with guitarist Slash, which eventually led to Slash leaving the band in 1996. This sparked a public conflict with both parties exchanging harsh words through the media. For years, Rose remained adamant about not reconciling. He even went as far as preventing Slash from attending Guns N' Roses' induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2012. However, they eventually buried the hatchet, leading to a highly anticipated reunion tour that thrilled fans worldwide. One of the most dramatic stories from Rose's career is the delayed release of the album Chinese Democracy. It was first announced in the late 1990s, but took many years to finish. Rose's perfectionism and frequent changes in the band's lineup caused delays, with many false starts and missed deadlines. The album finally came out in 2008, after more than a decade of anticipation. Although Chinese Democracy got mixed reviews, its release marked the end of one of rock's longest-running sagas. Nikki Sixx. One of the most infamous stories about Six involves his multiple heroin overdoses, with the most dramatic happening in 1987. On December 23rd, Six injected a massive dose of heroin and lost consciousness. His heart stopped, and he was clinically dead for 2 minutes before paramedics revived him with 2 shots of adrenaline to the heart. Six later described this near-death experience in his autobiography, The Heroin Diaries, vividly recounting how he saw himself floating above his body and being pulled down a dark tunnel before being brought back to life. This scary incident was a turning point for Six, although it took several more years of addiction before he finally got sober. But Six's wild lifestyle wasn't just about his drug use. His on-stage and backstage behavior was equally outrageous. In a series of recording sessions called the Blood Sessions, Six and the rest of Mötley Crüe would inject heroin, drink heavily, and record music in a drug-fueled haze. These chaotic sessions resulted in some of the band's most iconic songs, including Kickstart My Heart, which was inspired by Six's own near-death experience. His autobiography, The Heroin Diaries, gives a raw and unfiltered look at his life during his addiction. The book was written as a diary with entries from his darkest days, revealing the depths of his struggle with heroin and its impact on his life and relationships. Six's openness about his addiction and recovery has resonated with many fans, offering a glimpse into the hidden realities of rock star life. But there's more to his wild stories. One particularly memorable story involves Six's encounter with a group of Japanese fans during a Mötley Crüe tour in Japan. After a night of heavy drinking, Six passed out in his hotel room, only to be awakened by a group of fans who had somehow entered his room. Instead of reacting with anger, he partied with the fans until the early hours of the morning. John Bonham. Regarded as the Prince of Drums, Bonham was known for his amazing talent and wild lifestyle. His drumming skills were legendary, but so were his crazy antics. One of the most famous stories about Bonham involves his love for riding motorcycles through hotel hallways. You might ask, why do these rock stars love riding motorcycles in hotels? Well, maybe it was just the crazy trend back then, but feel free to share your ideas in the comment section below. So, during Led Zeppelin's 1970 American tour, Bonham and his bandmates stayed at the Continental Hyatt House in Los Angeles, a hotel popular with rock stars. One night, after heavy drinking, Bonham rode his Harley-Davidson through the hotel hallways, causing chaos and destruction. The hotel's staff and guests were shocked, but this was just another example of his wild and rebellious nature. But Bonham didn't just love motorcycles, he also had a habit of throwing TVs out of hotel windows. One of the most famous incidents happened at the Andaz West Hollywood Hotel. In a fit of drunken rage, Bonham threw a TV set from his room's balcony, sending it crashing onto the pavement below. His drinking was legendary and often led to dangerous behavior. One scary incident happened during Led Zeppelin's 1977 tour, when Bonham drank so much before a concert that he passed out on stage. The band had to stop the show, and Bonham was rushed to a nearby hospital to recover. This was a testament to how much heavy drinking affected his health and ability to perform. Despite these problems, Bonham's drumming was still unmatched, and his powerful performances continued to captivate audiences worldwide. But that's not all. Another wild and memorable story from Bonham's career involves his antics at the Chateau Marmont Hotel in Los Angeles. During a stay at the hotel, Bonham and his bandmates decided to have fun by driving a rented Rolls-Royce into the hotel swimming pool, an exact repetition of what Keith Moon did on his 21st birthday. The incident at the Chateau Marmont became one of the most infamous tales of rockstar excess. Let's talk a little about Bonham's personal life. A touching story from Bonham's life involves his relationship with his son, Jason Bonham. Despite his wild lifestyle, Bonham was a devoted father with a deep bond with his son. Jason often went on tour with his father and developed a passion for drumming, inspired by his father's incredible talent. However, this relationship was tragically cut short when John Bonham died in 1980 from alcohol-related asphyxia. Jason, who was only 14 at the time, was devastated by his father's death, but went on to become a successful drummer himself, carrying on his father's legacy. Keith Richards. Could we ever forget the iconic guitarist of the Rolling Stones? Richards is iconic, not just for his legendary guitar riffs, but also for his outrageous and rebellious lifestyle. His tales of wild excess, especially his heavy drug use, have made him one of rock's most notorious figures. One of the most famous stories about Richards involves his arrest in Canada in 1977 for heroin possession. At the time, Richards was facing a potential prison sentence, but his defense team argued that his music had positively influenced many people, including helping a young girl with her addiction. In a dramatic turn of events, Richards was sentenced to a year of probation and ordered to perform a benefit concert for the blind. This legal ordeal, known as the Toronto Bust, became a defining moment in Richards' life. His ability to function despite his addictions became a source of fascination. A particularly bizarre story from his life is the rumor that he underwent a complete blood transfusion to rid his body of drugs. Although Richards has denied this, the myth persists. Keith Richards provides a candid look at his years of drug abuse in his autobiography, autobiography, Life. In it, he details how he would often be high for many consecutive days, sustaining himself on a diet of heroin and other substances. Despite these habits, Richards remained remarkably productive, contributing significantly to the success of his band. One of his most notorious escapades happened at the Playboy Mansion in the 1970s. According to reports, Richards nearly burned down the mansion after a particularly wild night. The story goes that Richards and saxophonist Bobby Keys decided to heat up a bathtub filled with Dom Perignon champagne using a portable stove. As expected, this bad idea led to a fire, causing significant damage to the bathroom. Richards' relationship with bandmate Mick Jagger has also been a source of intrigue and drama. The dynamic between the two has been described as a love-hate relationship, with both men acknowledging their deep bond while also frequently clashing. In his autobiography, Richards referred to Jagger as unbearable and mocked his friend's solo efforts. Despite their differences, the pair have managed to maintain a professional partnership that has lasted for over 5 decades, producing some of the most iconic music in rock history. But that's not all. Another unforgettable story from Richards' life involves his fall from a coconut tree in Fiji in 2006. Richards was on vacation with his family when he decided to climb a tree to fetch some coconuts. He lost his balance and fell, suffering a serious head injury that required emergency surgery. This incident, though alarming, became another story in the long list of Richards' wild and unpredictable exploits. Despite the injury, Richards recovered and continued to tour with the Rolling Stones.
I ingested my ancestor, yes.
A particularly touching moment in Richards' life came when he decided to snort his father's ashes. In 2002, his father, Bert, passed away, and Richards decided to mix some of his father's ashes with cocaine and snort them. He later explained that this act was a way of keeping his father close to him, a sentiment that reflected the deep bond he shared with his father, Joe Perry. Remember the Toxic Twins? Perry and Tyler were bandmates notorious for wild and destructive acts. One of the most famous stories about them dates back to when Aerosmith recorded their classic album Rocks in 1976. During these sessions, Perry and Tyler were constantly high on cocaine and heroin. The band's recording studio, The Warehouse, became a wild party spot with frequent visits from drug dealers and fans. Despite the chaos, the album was a huge success with hits like Back in the Saddle and Last Child, showcasing Perry's raw and powerful guitar skills. But Perry's wild behavior wasn't limited to the recording studio. One of the most dramatic moments in his career happened during Aerosmith's Pump tour in 1989. At a concert in Philadelphia, Perry collapsed on stage during a guitar solo due to exhaustion and dehydration. The band had been touring non-stop, and the physical toll of their performances, along with Perry's ongoing drug use, had pushed him to his limits. But there's more. A particularly wild story from Perry's life involves his time at the Playboy Mansion in the 1970s. Perry and his bandmates were regular guests at Hugh Hefner's legendary parties, where the excesses of rockstar life were on full display. One night, Perry and Tyler decided to take a swim in the mansion's famous pool, but their antics quickly got out of hand. They ended up staging an impromptu concert in the pool, playing for the guests while half submerged in the water. According to Perry, his relationship with Steven Tyler has always been a major part of his life. Their partnership is often likened to a marriage due to their deep creative and personal bond. Together, they have created some of rock's greatest hits, but their journey has also been marked by conflicts. A memorable moment in Perry's life was when he left Aerosmith in 1979. Tensions between Perry and Tyler had escalated due to their drug use and egos. The breaking point came during a concert in Cleveland, where Perry and Tyler had a heated backstage argument, forcing Perry to quit the band. After leaving, Perry launched the Joe Perry Project, a solo venture that allowed him to explore his musical creativity beyond Aerosmith. David Lee Roth. Roth's life is filled with stories of rock and roll craziness. He was the lead vocalist of the rock band Van Halen. On stage, Roth was known for his acrobatic jumps, high kicks, and constant interaction with the audience. His shows were a spectacle, combining circus, theater, and rock concert elements. One memorable incident occurred during a show in Las Vegas, where Roth decided to descend from the lighting rig to the stage. The stunt didn't go as planned, and Roth ended up hanging awkwardly for several minutes before finally being lowered to the stage. Despite the incident, Roth laughed it off and continued the performance. Offstage, Roth's life was just as crazy. In 1983, while staying at the Andaz West Hollywood Hotel, Roth and the band played one of their most notorious pranks. They rented the entire 7th floor of the hotel and turned the hallway into a golf course. They golfed using real golf clubs and balls, causing significant damage to the hotel. But how crazy could these guys have been to do that? Roth's public image and wild lifestyle often overshadowed his musical talents, but his contributions to Van Halen's success were undeniable. His powerful voice voice, and energetic stage presence helped make the band famous, with iconic songs like Jump, Panama, and Hot for Teacher, showing off his mix of rock confidence and humor. But the story doesn't end there. After leaving Van Halen in 1985, Roth went on to have a successful solo career. His solo tours were known for their extravagant stage setups, including one instance where he rode a giant microphone across the stage. His solo work, featuring hits like California Girls and I Ain't Got Nobody, allowed him to explore different musical styles while maintaining his signature showmanship. But that's not all. His music videos, known for their humor and iconic visuals, quickly became fixtures on big music platforms like MTV. One particularly outrageous story from Roth's solo career involves his arrest in New York City's Washington Square Park in 1993. Roth was caught buying a $10 bag of marijuana from an undercover police officer. The incident made headlines and was surprising given Roth's public image as a party-loving rock star. In typical Roth fashion, he turned the situation into a joke, telling reporters that he was sheltered as a rock star and just trying to experience life. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.